Building the life leadership business can be hard. Does that make it a scam? You know, one of the things, I grew up in a small town in southern Wisconsin, and there's a beautiful lake. I know it might sound funny to think there's a beautiful lake in southern Wisconsin, but there's a beautiful lake there. And it's a little town called Lake Geneva, and it probably wouldn't have been a big town at all unless we go back in history and understand what created this town. And I was in a boat a couple years ago, and I got this tour and got to go around the entire lake, and there's these beautiful homes and properties manicured up, just cascading up from the water, and just house after house, property after property, and they share the story of every single home on this lake, and they're just gorgeous homes. And what was interesting, I found out real quickly, is almost every home was a business owner. Almost every home was an entrepreneur that came up and built a summer home on this lake. Never once did I hear that there was an auto mechanic like I did that built a fabulous house, or pretty much no occupation had these homes. They were all business owners, entrepreneurs, and the stories went back into the early 1800s where these entrepreneurs created their wealth by applying timeless principles of success. And as you make your way around this beautiful lake, you come to this one home called Stone Manor, and it's 30,000 square feet. It's the biggest property on the lake by far. It kind of sits towering above the lake, this beautiful 8-acre lawn laid out before it. You can't miss it if you get the chance to go to Lake Geneva. And I was wondering, what's the story behind this? What type of person created a 30,000 square foot home in Lake Geneva? And the story goes back into the 1800s. A young man by the name of Otto made his way over from Germany. And he came to Germany, even though his parents were well off in Germany, he came to America with almost no money, totally broke, living in New York City. And he had a dream to go out and create the American dream and create success and become an entrepreneur. And he started with a small cart that he pushed up and down the streets of New York, and he sold jewelry, costume jewelry, out of this cart. Started small, but he got every penny together and got a little inventory for himself and just made his way up day after day, night after night, selling. And what he did that was really interesting, that you're going to learn through the financial fitness products, is he was really smart with his money. He took all the money he made, invested it back into his business, and then the extra money he stashed away for a future time. And can you imagine the criticism he may have gotten for going out there day after day, night after night, walking the streets, selling this costume jewelry? But he was stashing this money, and you know, he was so smart because when opportunity comes, will you be ready? Well, I meet so many people in business that they can't afford to start their own company because they're spending every dime entertaining themselves, every dime on recreation, every dime, and all that money's going out, and there's nothing left to invest in themselves or a business. And here this young man, Otto, in New York, pushing this cart, saving his money, getting prepared for a time, and along comes around in the late 1800s, the Chicago fire wipes out downtown Chicago. And a lot of those businesses that were in downtown Chicago, they're the ones that made their way 2 hours north to Lake Geneva and built these homes. And this young man, because he was an entrepreneur, because he was willing to work hard, go out, put extra time in, extra effort in, do the uncommon thing, and then be smart with his money, he stashed away enough money that when Chicago got wiped out, he went in and started buying up properties, burnt properties, and everybody thought he was crazy. This is never going to work. We're never going to build Chicago. Why would you invest your time and energy here? And he bought up as much of Chicago as he could. If you're familiar with Chicago, he bought up Chicago. The place he bought is now called the Loop of Chicago. It's just the most just incredible space there. He bought that all up, and then years later sold back and created all this wealth, went up to Lake Geneva, built this 30,000 ornate square foot house, all because he applied success principles. And as I made my way around that lake, I thought, how many stories out there are people that have created this tremendous success? They all go back to the same principles. They're all principles that I wasn't taught growing up, being taught to go to school, get good grades, get a good job. They were taught to work hard. I love what Thomas Edison says. So many people miss opportunity because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. And I tell you what, when I first became an entrepreneur with life leadership and I started doing the uncommon things, going out at night when everybody else was watching TV, investing any extra money I had into my business and my future, saving the money that I started to make, and in those moments, people looked at me and thought I was crazy. I remember thinking, people telling me, why are you putting in so much time, leaving your kids at night sometimes to go out and share this idea and doing all the crazy stuff entrepreneurs do? It's because I wanted the life of an entrepreneur. I wanted to apply the principles as fast as I could and be as smart as I could with those principles so I can go out there and create the lifestyle that so few people ever do. Because as I traveled around that lake in Lake Geneva, and I heard story after story after story of entrepreneurs willing to do the extra, do what it takes, be smart financially, play defense like we teach, go on the offense and create a business system. And it's just amazing the life you can create if you apply those principles, just like young Otto did when he was able to go out around the streets of New York and do the uncommon thing. He then lived an uncommon life.